All right. Thank you, Rich. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Creefor, Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Instruction, and I'm going to kick it off from the elementary perspective here for you this evening. I would like to thank the four principals that will be joining me this evening, again, from the elementary perspective, to share with you some updates in our reconfirmation of our Return to Learn plan. We thought it was important that rather than just speaking about some of the things that we've been presenting to you as a board, you were able to hear from those on the front lines really working and day in and day out with these plans. And I want to welcome Dr. Aaron Detmer, principal at Leonard Elementary, Mr. Jeremy Wan, principal at Bemis Elementary, Ms. Shari Paulus, a principal at Hill Elementary, and Ms. Stephanie Zendler, principal at Morris Elementary. I want to start by thanking our principals this evening. They've been working just under tremendous conditions since March, as all of you have, and all of our staff has, and to serve our community. These folks are incredible champions for equity and for our children, and they've just been working under, I'm sure, what promises to be one of the most challenging set of circumstances in our careers. And I just want to, that doesn't, I know our neighbors and in our community are experiencing similar challenges in various school districts, regardless of where they are. But Jeremy, Aaron, Shari, and Stephanie represent just an incredible body of our principal group and our full administration. We just want to welcome them here tonight to share their perspective. I'm going to start by sharing just a quick overview for the purposes of, for the benefit of our community that perhaps hasn't seen the overview of our presentation, and then they'll share specifically from their perspective as a group. And so just again, for the benefit of the group, we're going to talk just a bit about our plan in general and sort of the why behind this. Back in August, we talked about our model for learning. We knew we had to shift quickly into an alternate learning environment, and that really hinged on ensuring learning for all. That's the mission of our district, and we were charged with providing a robust, flexible learning model. And so, as I mentioned, the mission of our district hasn't changed, and so we had to change the parameters as to how we get there together. We wanted to focus on being incredibly flexible and to focus on all of the members of our community, and also thinking about how do we meet the needs of our most vulnerable students at the right time. We know that there are varying perspectives in our community, and in honoring those, there are students that need to be in our schools. They need us, and we know that we're obligated as a system to provide those learning environments that's safe and a healthy way for them through the lens of equity. And so we've been working as hard as possible to serve our community together. And most importantly, this model is adaptive and anchored in a sense of community. I want to just kind of acknowledge our staff. Our staff is having a really difficult time. If we're being honest, we've been able to sit with them and listen to a lot of their concerns. And I think, honestly, we're, as a community, really grieving what we knew. And that was what we know is last year and what was school. And so it's important to validate that and recognize that, but also to kind of lock arms and make sure that we're providing our best sense of what we know is best for our community under really difficult conditions. So while we know that things are difficult, what we can promise is to provide the best level of support both to one another and to our community. We know that also with some of the pieces that we gathered from our community, that we needed to provide our 5 elements of a plan that was imperative. So streamlining our technology and support. So things like providing iPads, Schoology, similar platforms, those things were important. In addition to providing meaningful interactions with teachers and classmates, we learned right away that the asynchronous environment was really tough on our teachers and not as engaging for students. So the recorded videos and things like that just weren't meeting the needs of our kids. So we increased the level of live interactions with teachers. In addition, we wanted to make sure that we are teaching the Troy School District curriculum, which is robust and heavy and high expectations. But most importantly, we wanted the One Troy community to be at the center. So our students and their needs are key, and we wanted, regardless of where students, whether they're on a virtual platform or here in our classrooms, we wanted them to feel part of a community. And what we mean by that, that means the teacher and the student that relationship is key. And that's incredibly important to any other step in learning. So those relationships are a tremendously important part of a child's academic and social well-being. Just a quick overview of our timeline for learning. As you well know, we started with our in-state students, K1 on October 5th, and on October 28th, we'll have all of our 10th through 12th grade. So along each week, we had a grade band that was entering. And again, while challenging, we're working to provide the safest environment possible for our students. Quick glance at our elementary breakdown, we're at about a 43% average of students that are in seat with us. And so you can see the differences across the district as it relates to students that are hybrid, they're in the blue, and in the orange are students that are virtual. And so again, those are varying throughout the district. The breakdown becomes 47% virtual, again, about 44% average for hybrid. Our range of classes, as we shared with the board last time, ranges from about 18 in seat to 3 students. And our average class size is around 10. In addition to that, our attendance average is pretty incredible. We have 99% attendance rate, which is exciting for us to be able to report. One of the things, as I mentioned, while our staff is having a very challenging time, where our ongoing commitment to support has really shifted and really amped up. So our teaching and learning department has provided ongoing feedback sessions with all of our K1 staff. As we anticipated, our K1 staff in particular, as you can imagine with K1 students, this environment, whether it be virtual or in a hybrid setting, is very challenging for our youngest learners. And so we want to make sure that we're working side by side with staff to accommodate for that and to really make the adjustments along the way that are necessary. We're holding sessions in addition with all of our staff, not just putting out a survey or things like that, but really taking the time to sit and listen with them and provide that that kind of job embedded experience and listening to them and seeing how things are going along the way. We're very proud of our teaching and learning team that has visited over 850 classrooms over 3 times to support. They've been going room by room in each and every classroom in order to assist them and to make sure that our staff has what they need by way of technology. Anything that our staff needs, they're making a tremendous effort to try to get out there and support as much as possible. So some of the, in learning from those pieces, some of the internal adjustments that we've made, we know that safety is our very top priority. And so we've lessened the number of times that students are going to be able to opt to have in-seat. That was something we heard loud and clear from our staff. And it's very difficult on our principals to be able to accommodate for those safety protocols. So we've shortened the time where students are able to enter into in-seat. In addition, our building teams are working to provide consistent levels of support for our staff during those times. So we mentioned just in particular with K1, being able to have staff to support them in a setting in the classroom that would be kind of an extra set of hands in the room, if you will. So I'm going to kick this off over to Jeremy Wan. We're going to talk about 3 key topics this evening that are key in the Return to Learn plan. So the first being safety, followed by curriculum and communication. So Mr. Wan, I'll kick it over to you.
Good evening. Thank you, Chris, for handing it off to me. Point of my part of this presentation is just to connect you to a day in the life of elementary school through the lens of safety procedures and protocols that we've been working on. Just want to thank Central Office for all of their support, as well as my colleagues for helping to challenge thinking and to help us to get things into place, as well as our amazing teachers, our office teams and our staff, and our parent representatives who have really helped us to formulate our plans. Now you're going to see through pictures this little field trip that will help you to connect to a few of some of the safety protocols that we've put into place. right from the beginning of the day, our office team is working on communicating with parents, trying to help them to get their health application filled out so that we know that students coming into school are prepared and aren't coming to school with symptoms. Carrie Birmingham's also been supporting that. And then as the parents start to come to our drop-off zones, we have our staff is out there helping us to get our kids to our classrooms as safely as possible. And what's nice this year is one of the protocols that we've changed is students are going directly into the classrooms versus congregating in the office, near the office or in the hallways. That's been a big difference. They're getting out of their parents' vehicles or the buses and going directly into the classrooms without congregating. You can see a few of the stickers that are on front doors around the district, reminding families, students to socially distance, as well as the decal that is next to the stop sign on the front door there. Some schools are using QR codes for parents who have come in late to school. It's a chance for them not to have to interact with our office staff, keeping our office staff as safe as possible, as well as our parents, where they can check in through the QR code and not having to have any interaction in the office. Some of the buildings are handling all these procedures a little bit differently, but I think that we're pretty similar. Some of these pictures are showing signage that's being used for students to line up at the beginning of the day and also the end of the day. Chris, if you can go to the next slide.
Sure.
So here's on our field trip entering into the front of the school, you can see office teams are surrounded with the acrylic shields that Dr. Rick West was talking about. The acrylic shields give our office team a layer of protection when they're working with the public. Each building has worked with Oakland County Health as well, and we've put together a clinic for those who are not feeling well as a well clinic that is stocked with things for kids who need Band-Aids. They may have fallen on the playground or they need ice. So we've separated our clinics this year to ensure that we're keeping kids as safe as possible also. And then in this image, the third picture there, that is one of my moms from school. She has stepped up and she has been hired through the CARES Act to be our safety manager. And this is a new position just this year. Her role is really to help us to oversee all of our safety procedures and protocols. And so she helps us to oversee the clinic. She's helping parents who have arrived late to get their kids into the class. She's helping students around the playground area. She's disinfecting equipment so that kids can use equipment. She's all over the place, and really her heart is to help our kids have the best experience that we can offer here at school. Each building has the opportunity to hire one of those individuals this year, and we're very fortunate to have her. Next slide, please. So here you can see students in the hallway. Again, Rick was talking about decals and signage. You can see on the floor in each building signage that's been provided. In this case, we wanted you to see students walking on a one-way train track. The one-way train track keeps students going in one direction so that we're trying to eliminate as many possibilities of classrooms, communities, or other classrooms from mixing together, keeping our kids as safe as we possibly can. You can also see drinking fountains have been closed off, and so the decals have been placed around those drinking fountains so that students aren't using them. And one of the languages we're using with kids, the kids actually came up with it. They put their hands out together and they say that they're Superman or Superwoman as they fly through the hallways, and that helps them to remember to be socially distanced. The next slide, please. And this is where the action's happening. Our amazing teachers, our awesome students, and the support that we're getting from parents. In the first image, you can see one of our reading recovery teachers who's truly so dedicated to the kids. And what we have with our PPE is an opportunity for her to slide materials back and forth to the student so that she can point out and use strategies appropriate with the children. You can see different classrooms from around the district, students being socially distanced in classrooms. You can see the teachers in their, what I call their command center or their Star Trek situation where they're controlling multiple devices in their room, their control room. making sure that our Zoomies who are on Zoom are getting the best instruction that we can possibly give them, as well as helping the roomies, the kids in room, to get the instruction that we can give to our students. It is very challenging, as Chris said, and we are listening and trying to improve every single day. We're just trying to get a little bit better, but our teachers are awesome and our kids are doing a great job also as we start to transition kids back into school. And then the last teacher in that picture, you can see our specialists moving from their classrooms into transitioning into classrooms, the general ed classrooms, to provide specials for kids. So there's a picture of one of our specialists being dedicated, and she's got a really fancy cart there that her husband put together. So it's very, very interesting to see how people are adapting to the work environment. Next slide, please. And then going outside, you know, having kids be kids. We're following Oakland County Health and having play zones for students. We're keeping classrooms together by cohort, meaning that classrooms are going out to recess with their classroom and staying in zones as of now per Oakland County Health recommendations. You can see students are able to social distance, they're able to play and have fun. There's a view from up on a roof looking down into a play area. Some schools are using painted lines to keep zone areas. Others are using signs. And then you can also see a classroom outside who's taking a snack break. They just finished, so they put their mask back on, but it's a chance for them to have a snack outside if it's nice weather, as well as getting a break from their masks and also social distancing. The buckets are, one is for trash and one is for cleaning products and sanitizer for students after they eat, a chance for them to clean their hands. And if students feel the need to sanitize anything, they can do so if they choose to do that. Next slide, please. And then last but not least, the cafeteria, where all the action happens. We've worked very hard with Oakland County Health. In this picture, you can see red X's on some stools and green squares on the other. This would be similar in most schools. That's showing where students can sit if we were at 100% capacity. That's showing 3 feet apart. Right now, with the percentages of students who have returned, we can easily social distance over 6 feet in the cafeteria. And you can also see our new aides working very hard to sanitize hands with kids after they're done eating. And you can see that in schools, we have 2 different lunch rooms this year. We have the gymnasium, because our gym class is virtual right now. So we're using our gymnasium for one of our lunch rooms, as well as our traditional cafeteria. And that allows us to create more distance for our students, ensuring the best safety possibilities that we can provide. And then you can see our DM Burr custodian working very hard. She has 2 cafeterias to clean, and our new safety manager is also able to help with that. So a little bit of extra help this year is definitely needed, and we appreciate that support as we're trying to keep those cafeterias as clean as possible for our kiddos. That's all I have for our little field trip. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to kick it over to Shari Paulus and Aaron Detmer.
During this transition to school in the hybrid model, one of the things that has really helped our teachers support students is our curriculum. And throughout this, we have ensured that learning is equitable for all. With the help of our One Troy Pacing Guide, we have support from the Teachers College. We have assessments that have stayed consistent throughout the buildings and throughout the district. And we've also stayed consistent with our multi-tiered system of support so that we can make sure that we're supporting students where they need.
So a strength, a strength of Troy has always been and continues to be our common high expectations for students. Every year we adjust our pacing guides according to the recommendations from current thinking in the field, our teachers' expertise, and our student performance. In building this year's pacing guide, we followed the exact same collaborative process. We leaned on our partners from Teachers College to hear their recommendations based upon the thousands of schools they work with. We then took those recommendations to each of our grade level teams, and our own TSD teachers created our pacing guides for this school year. Our plan that we've put together is responsive. It takes into account which units the students had and didn't have this past spring, and it considers what needs that the children will have to have supported at varying levels throughout this past fall and into this upcoming school year. In order to continue to be as responsive responsive to each student in our class, teachers are making slight adjustments to the timing of their units. So all classes are following the same sequence of units across the year, but the cadence for each building will be adjusted to meet the unique learners of each class. We do continue to have a world-class curriculum in Tier 1 that serves as the foundation for learning for all of our students.
During this time, as Chris mentioned earlier, teachers are leaning on, they need support. And so the district has done a great job of providing world-class curriculum and PD for teachers as well. We have partnered with the Teachers College, who's created videos for teachers to use within their classroom that support them with reading and writing. The beauty of these videos is that not only does it provide a resource for our students, but teachers can watch them as well, and it becomes an instant PD for students or PD for teachers. We also have a consistent place where we keep our curriculum so that teachers always know where to go on Schoology, which has been extremely helpful as they toggle between in-seat and virtual. TSD has also created, Teaching and Learning has created science and social studies lessons and videos that has a very similar pace to what you saw with reading and writing that they can show their students. The purpose of this is so that teachers know what students have already been exposed to and what they still need, and all of the material builds.
Alongside a really strong Tier 1 curriculum, we value the importance of assessment. Teachers use a variety of assessments, both informal and formal, to guide their teaching on a daily basis. From a systems lens, we have continued to create a district-wide assessment calendar that ensures that our assessments are continued to be given throughout the school year. These assessments provide classroom teachers with the information they need to ensure responsive teaching for each and every child. In addition, the assessments also provide information to our district as to the effectiveness of our programming and our own professional development needs. We have just wrapped up the first literacy assessment window. Students have completed their fall writing samples, and teachers spent time administering the Fontes and Pinnell reading assessment individually with each child. These individual reading assessments fulfill the district's responsibility to Public Act 306, which mandates that all children in grades K through 3 are screened 3 times a year for reading difficulties, and the new Return to Learn legislation that requires all K to 8 students be tested in ELA. Grade level teams at every building then met together to review that data and create improvement plans. IRIPs were developed for each individual child who was below benchmark, and teachers are working collaboratively with parents to give the children the instruction that they need to help ensure that they're moving forward in acquiring the literacy skills they need. Next on our list is to administer the mathematics assessment to all students. Our elementary math leadership team is in the process of developing a local assessment to fulfill the Return to Learn requirements for math. Our teaching and learning department will be leading professional development in the coming weeks to share these assessments with our teams. Assessments in Troy continue to be meaningful. They continue to light the way for our responsive instruction to meet the needs of all learners.
Each building has developed a schedule to support students in need. We already had such a great system in place that we are meeting with our support staff weekly to talk about those students that need extra support. We've created building schedules that allow for small group time and one-on-one intervention. And we also meet to discuss students whose needs are still not being met and discuss as a team brainstorming how we're going to meet those needs. This has become a really valuable part of our system that's already in place because we know that students have missed things since March, and this allows us to talk about those students and focus intervention to meet their individual needs. Next, Stephanie will talk about communication.
Thanks. While many things in Troy have remained the same, like our world-class curriculum, our amazing community, and our amazing teaching staff, so many things have changed. And to be honest, so many things have changed so quickly that communicating with our parents is really, really imperative. There are some key pieces that are in place that are some new and some refreshed and some growing every day. The first is our K-5 and K-12 Schoology platform. While our elementary parents are continuing to adjust and our elementary students to using the Schoology platform, it has proven an amazing vehicle for support for all types of learners, whether our learners are learning in seat or virtually. It allows our offices to communicate with parents in ways different than our standardized school messenger or your typical stop in the hallway and talk to a parent volunteering. While unfortunately, some of our doors have been closed for safety, our communication hasn't been any more clear, has been much more clear as we've moved forward into this new space. We've also been really careful about making sure that we are responsive and flexible to learners of all types and parents of all types. In many ways, we are called to making sure that we can continue to engage our parents. Some of those key pieces are making sure that our parents who are learning English, who our students are learning English, have access to the same information as folks who aren't. For instance, we use, teachers have access to a Talking Points translation app for real-time conversation across multiple languages. Teachers and administrators are learning how to use new technologies every day to create quick and easy ways to communicate with parents who are learning across languages or who are learning complex information for the first time, or things are changing rapidly. We have support for parents, whether that's live in person in Zoom or dial-in translation services gracefully provided by the district for us. And for our students and for parents is part of the support for students with IEPs and students who are learning English as well. Next slide, please. Additionally, as we've grown into this new place, this new normal that we're in right now, our teacher teams and our administrative teams have continued to be as responsive and flexible as we can with parent communication. I'll be honest, we've taken our fair share of tough feedback too. We're doing our best to respond to the community as they reach to us and as we try to get ahead of changes and developments in ways that we can help them to have a peek inside a building that they can't see right now. As a parent myself, I know that is a little disturbing to not be able to walk inside my students' buildings. But we, as a goal, all of us are working hard to make sure that through lots of other means of communication, we're able to give parents sneak peeks or visits into our buildings that are meaningful and responsive to their needs. We use social media for sharing and support. For instance, many schools and PTO groups have Facebook pages where they share news and events. They share both the face-to-face and virtual school life day. Twitter is a great place that lots of our parents and community members share news and showcase best practice. WhatsApp is a great group texting app that is another place to share news and information in a text message format. And then many of our administrators and teachers are also using Padlet, which is another method to share information, lots of information or little bits of information, ways to help kids and parents and families stay connected to what's happening in our world-class buildings, whether you're in the building in person or in the building online. The one thing I could say to speak for all of our administrators would be that we appreciate our community's patience, flexibility, and grace as we're continuing to fine-tune our communication to make sure we're supportive of every learner. Thank you.
Stephanie, Jeremy, Shari, and Aaron, thank you so much on behalf of the elementary. We'll transition into the middle school portion here. And just, I know as administrators, we bear the responsibility of all 13,000 plus students in our district, and you're on the front lines of that. And I can't thank you enough for leading with safety at the forefront and the way that you've represented our team here tonight. So I'm going to kick this over to Mrs. DiPilato, Tony Morris, and Christian Mueller.
And Chris, before you do that, are there any questions at an elementary level? Like that might be better to tackle questions. Yes,
I have a couple of questions. First,
Carl, can you have everybody speak way up? It's really difficult to hear when you're in a mask. You just have to.
way up. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The first question is with Schoology and how our kids and parents are doing with adopting it. Especially, I've heard that it is kind of difficult for our kiddos who can't yet read. how are you doing with that?
I'm sorry, I heard Schoology and I couldn't make the rest out because it's.
How are the younger students doing adapting to Schoology?
Thank you.
Particularly the sort of our early readers. Not good.
I heard school. I'll answer it to the best of my ability. Principals, you can chime in. So Schoology so if you recall when the secondary went to Schoology a few years back, that was a really rocky road of about a year of implementation, and we did this within a few months. And so I think there's pluses and minuses to Schoology as a tool, but all in all, it's been when I had shared at the beginning that kind of streamlined technology that we're trying to kind of direct parents to that as a home base. It's a little challenging in the, as most things are, we're learning in the K-1 environment or in the early L, but I will say that it's been a tremendous way of organizing the information in a streamlined way for our students. And so one thing that's a little tricky for us is students uploading assignments or taking pictures of their writing and things like that. But I would say overall, it's been highly successful for our parents. Just again, some of the bumps and that we would expect, kind of directing parents there as a landing spot and things like that, instead of teachers using multiple different formats to communicate. So we're trying to get people to go to that again as that home base.
Is it actually common to kind of secondary?
Okay, you want to
So
hold
I
it
can
until the
ask
end?
later.
Okay, great. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Salmon.
This was the first I've heard of a new position, safety manager. It sounds like we have one in every school. I was just curious, if that was elementary, secondary, and secondary as well. I wanted to know how much we're paying for that, if the board needed to approve it, and if not, why not, what the qualifications are, and what the job description is.
Rich, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Chris, I'll fill in.
Okay, so thank you for that, Elizabeth. We learned quickly that we wanted to, we had some holes, particularly and with some of the things that we needed our principals to be able to do in terms of safety. We needed an extra set of hands. And so this was a position similar to that of and I can't speak to the exact rate of pay, but similar to that of a noon aide that would be in a position all day instead of the kind of choppy hours that we would be paying someone in terms of just being there in the morning or in the afternoon. And so this is, they are helping us with things like sanitizing, for example, some of the toys in the K-1 rooms that we didn't have the people in place in terms of cleaning with those set like that particular time on their hands in order to sanitize, and some of the extra cleaning pieces that we needed. So those were it, and things like monitoring screeners and as Jeremy showed, some of the things with the COVID room and things like that. So this is a position that would be by way of comparison, like a noon aide position, but throughout the day. Does that help?
Thank you. I was going to add, it's like a noon aide, if you will, on steroids, because they're there all day. We're covering costs. This is a temporary position. We're covering costs through CARES Act monies, and it's so it's an administrative record.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no restriction, we can just add staff without that coming to my board. I'm just curious about the logistics or the capabilities that we have to add staff like that.
Yeah, the staff doesn't, or excuse me, the board does not approve hires similar to unions. We only bring before the board hires of administrators and teachers.
Even if we're changing an existing staffing.
Correct. Okay, any other questions? Dr. Wilson?
Can I suggest that you unmute yourself when you ask the question, and then I'll be able to your speaker and just unmute your question. You can do that.
Sorry, the echo was weird.
No, it's not gonna work. All right, I'm just gonna shoot.
We can hear you, Nicole. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for talking about assessment. I realize how difficult that must be to balance the timing for assessment. And so I just wanted to say that I appreciate that you guys are keeping some of those traditional pieces, but then I also just wanted to ask how we're supporting our teachers as they do the MTSS piece? Like, are there windows in their schedule for that? 'Cause I'm listening to that and I'm like, wow, that sounds great and also hard.
Thank you, Nicole. Yes, it's hard. But we have traditionally in our contract, we have 3 days that are earmarked for our staff to use during specific windows during our assessment time. Again, that happens 3 times throughout the year. So the teachers are able to have a sub in a traditional environment. And so what we've done within our letter of agreement with our EA was we also earmarked times, not with subs, but during those small group times within our schedule that were specific to assessment this time. And just candidly, if there was a sub available, we also provided that for our staff. So we got real creative during that window in order to free up our teachers to have that time. Again, that was one of many challenges, but also really important to getting kids the support that they need and identifying their areas of strengths and the areas that we need to target to help us through. So yeah, we've kind of modified, just like with everything else, along with our EA leadership, to work on designated earmarked times for the assessment to take place.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Gilbert.
Chris, could you just provide a little more
for how teachers are managing the, I like your terminology, the Zoomies and the Roomies at the same time? Just help us understand. I had my first experience of doing that today at the high school level with a program I was running, and it actually worked really well. But I understand high schoolers are very different than kindergartners and first graders.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that question, Nancy. We took an awful lot of time, and again, thanks to the principals for, we met, I guess, face-to-face via Zoom with each and every building team in our K1 setting to address just that. So the management in the K1 setting is quite challenging and difficult, just being very transparent about that. As what we've noticed is as the grade bands go up, so when our 2-3 students came in and our 4-5 students were welcomed this week, we're noticing it's not easy by any stretch, but it certainly is students become more independent, obviously, as they get older. And so we are working to together with our K1 in particular. We've noticed that that's a real a pain point for us. And so what we've done is principals are in the process of working specifically with their building. We can't, we're learning quickly that to approach this uniformly is going to be difficult, because what's an issue at Hill might not be an issue at Costello, for example. And so we want to hear from those staff members in order to target the needs. And so one way of doing that in some buildings, they've come up with using their building sub to provide consistent levels of support to the classroom teachers. Perhaps they take the students that are virtual, or perhaps they take the students in seat and they work in tandem on the lesson. So they're able to kind of provide that support. And so right now we're in the process again of listening and to our staff and to know what support would be helpful and beneficial to the students. And so it's that within that, as time goes on, we know that our staff is becoming a little more confident in the process, just like when you're learning anything new. But it is important, especially in that K1 piece, that we're providing different levels of and varying levels of support. So,
thank you.
Any other questions at the elementary level? Okay, thank you, Chris, and thank you to all our principals. I know all of you are working late and you're sitting there thinking about all the things that you should be doing, and here you are spending time with us, but we really do appreciate the boots on the ground perspective. So thank you again for your hard work.
Thank you.
Hey.
All right.
I think you're up.
We're up. Great. So I'd like to echo, hi everyone, my name is Christine DiPilato. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Instruction. I would like to echo much of what Ms. Greenforth shared as she began her presentation, and that is the hard work that's been taking place across the district to prepare us to return students to school. Our support not only from our teaching and learning group, which did a wonderful job leading our professional learning, but the risk-taking and the hard work of our classroom teachers as they've prepared and gotten their classrooms ready, their instruction ready, and their units ready for students to come into the classroom, and our building administrators, two of whom have joined me this evening to talk a little bit about having our secondary student staff. So I am glad to be here tonight with Tony Morse, the principal at Bullen Park Middle School, and Christian Mueller, the principal at Smith Middle School. As many of you are aware, the middle school was not able to return until Monday the 12th, so we are just 6 days into having sixth graders in our building, so today completed the 6th day. We only have 6th grade back in the building, and we had 9th grade, and we started 9th grade just yesterday, so we had 2 days of 9th grade. So today, we're able to provide you with a little bit of an update based on the experience that the 6th graders have had, knowing that the next time we come together, we'll be able to share more with you after we have more of our students in the classroom. Next week, we will be welcoming back our 7th and 8th graders to join our 6th graders. We will also be welcoming back our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders at Troy High in Athens. This week, we have all of our students 9 through 12 welcome back at TCCHS, and all of our students 9 through 12 welcome back at the International Academy East. So we are up and rolling. What you'll see in front of you is a focus on the percentage of return at the middle school level. So the bar graphs at the top show the building in total 6 through 8 and the percentage of return. And then at the bottom, you'll see specifically the 6th grade. So if you look at that chart down at the bottom, for Baker Middle School, we have 91 6th graders returning, at Bullen Park 102, Larson 119, and Smith 94. And it's important to note that currently those are cohorted into 2 cohorts. So for instance, at Bullen Park, there's 50 students returning on Monday, Tuesday, and then 50 students returning on Thursday, Friday. So that small number is further divided into an even smaller number, where we have, we have small class sizes, very small class sizes right now at our middle. So that's just a general painting of who's in the building. And I'm going to turn it over to our principals who are going to kind of step us through the next pieces. And we're going to kick it off with Mr. Mueller, who's going to talk a little bit about the experiences our 6th graders have had over the last couple of days.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So we did start with 6th graders last Monday, and I have to say that it's been an absolute pleasure to awaken our building and bring in our kiddos and spend the last few days with some kids in the building. Obviously, it's been very quiet since March, but now we're starting to see the building come back to life a little bit. And we have some very happy students that are joining us every day for the last couple of days. We've been very fortunate to receive some great feedback from some of our parents that are sending their kids to the building. And we are very, very appreciative of all of our parents for their partnership, their patience, and their flexibility through this entire beginning of our school year. Their optimism and trust in us has been very uplifting, and we seriously and very much appreciate all of our parents in partnership. We transitioned our 6th graders, A through K and L through Z, on Monday and Tuesday last week with A through K, and Thursday and Friday last week with L through Z, and then yesterday and today with our A through K kiddos. We started each of our first days last week, Monday and Thursday, with our new groups, with an orientation in the morning where we spent some time talking with our students about what their day is going to look like, what life is like here at Smith Middle School. We went over safety procedures, we went over lunch, and all of those important factors to help them get through their day, and a tour of the building, because this is really the first time that our students have had an opportunity to enter the building. And so we wanted to welcome them with open arms, but also kind of give them that sort of that Adventure Island experience in our morning for the first days that they joined us. And really in no time, our students have really become pros at navigating the building and getting around, and especially because our building is really just 6th graders. There isn't the congestion in the hallway, and they really feel confident to get around the building. And interestingly enough, with the numbers of sixth graders that we almost have a 1-to-1 staff to student ratio during the day to support them in the hallways getting from one place to another. More importantly, around the building, I'm seeing the great connections between the great in-person connections between our students and teachers and our students and students. And so that has been amazing to see. It's kind of hard to fathom, but so many of our students since March have really not had a whole lot of opportunity to be with other kids. And so, when I sit in the lunchroom each day and see the kids interacting with one another, when I see them in the hallways, they're magnetic. They want to be with each other. They're having great discussions and conversations in the classroom. And it's really great to see that because it's been missing in our building for so long. I'm seeing really engaging work in the classroom and seeing great activities. We kind of went back to almost like day one of school last week, bringing the kids back. We wanted to kind of reset that connection and relationship between the teachers and students. And then as we begin the next couple of weeks of working on the hybrid transition, really getting back into the swing of things with academics and moving our courses forward. Our kids are really excited to be back. I really need to mention that. And it's so great to see them walk into the building, all smiles, maybe a little tired, but all smiles. And in terms of our staff, whether from our kitchen staff to our front office staff, our parapros, our HCAs, our EL paras, and our teachers. I really have to give them just so many accolades and so much appreciation. They continue to work tirelessly to adapt to the change. They're going home exhausted, they're recharging, and they're coming back to do it all over again. Our staff, our teaching staff especially, has been collaborating quite a bit over the last week with this new experience of the hybrid of having students in the building and at home. It's given our 7th and 8th grade teachers an opportunity to work with our 6th grade teachers to learn from them, to kind of work through the kinks so that they can reimagine what their classrooms are going to look like over the next several weeks when we bring back our 7th and 8th graders. And so that efforts of collaboration, I believe, are really going to spark some great opportunities over the next couple of weeks. I think some of my favorite comments from the kids that I've heard have really been around how much they enjoy being back, how much they love seeing their teachers in person, how much they love being at school, and how much they would love to be coming to school each and every day. I know Mr. Morse is going to touch a little bit on safety, but it's very true that our students are taking their opportunity to be at school very, very seriously. We haven't had to talk to kids about putting on their masks. We haven't had to talk to kids about socially distancing. We haven't had to talk to them about those big things. And I think a lot of it comes down to all of the communications from each of the schools, from the district. But we've been living in this since for so many months now. And I think that altogether, the seriousness of it has really made an impact on the kids, and they're taking this opportunity very seriously. But for me personally, it's been a really amazing opportunity to get the kids back, to get some elbow bumps, and to just get that feeling of making our school alive again. So really want to just appreciate that.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Chris. You actually said how I was going to lead. It's just wonderful to see our kids back at school, smiling and happy. And my portion deals with our safety procedures and some of the things we've learned. And what I was going to lead with was what Chris kind of just left off with is how serious our students are about being at school and how they want to be there. We've also had zero conversations about masks or social distancing or any type of safety protocol. Our kids love being back, smiles on their faces every day that they've been back with us. So as I was listening to Jeremy present the elementary safety protocols, it's a lot of the same notes that we're doing at the middle school. This has been a collaborative effort amongst all the secondary principals and brainstorming with each other. And so you'll see in a couple of these pictures, very similar signage that you saw when Jeremy presented. We also at the middle level, we do have two-way hallways. I'm not sure if that's something, Jeremy talked about the railroad tracks at the elementary, but we have two-way hallways at the middle school. And again, that social distancing piece with our kids, it has not been an issue. Everybody's abiding by all of the safety protocols that we've put in place. A couple of things, we've been really trying to utilize outdoor spaces, especially since the weather's been pretty nice before the end of last week. There's a picture on the left of a couple of our band students that are outside trying to get some time in some beautiful weather. Our gym classes have been trying to utilize hot spots and being able to go outside when they're able to. Our teachers are also using mask breaks for our students that need those throughout the day by being able to go outside and to stay socially distanced. This evening, Rick talked about with the board about purchasing more PPE and that signage that's so important to us. And we're all thankful that we have that for our students. We have multiple hand sanitizing stations throughout the building. The middle schools have worked on staggered entrance and exit times for our students to make sure that we don't have the congregating of students at the bus or when students arrive into the building. So we have a time in which our students come off the bus, and then we have a time in which our parents or walkers come into the building, and that's some staggered times that we're using. If you want to, can you switch to the next slide, Chris? I think that's you, right? Our lunchroom, this was a big conversation at the middle school. In middle school, lunch is very, very social and a really fun time. And typically it's a pretty loud time with 300 middle schoolers in a cafeteria. But with our current state that we're in, we knew how important it was that it was a safe experience for kids, but it was also a social experience for our students to be able to have that time. So all four of the middle schools agreed that there's an importance of choice. We allow our students to choose where they would like to sit, and having some flexibility in that, especially for our sixth graders who are meeting new friends, and they may be a student that are in class with maybe a student that went to Bemis but now has a friend from Schroeder that they didn't know. So we've to collaborate with the Oakland County nurses on seating, and you'll see some red lines on those are Bolin tables there, some red lines which are very similar to the X's that Jeremy showed, and the one without is an open seat. The picture in the top left is a QR code, and that's how we're contact tracing our students at lunch, where students will check in and that's their seat, and they'll fill a form out with their name and what lunch and then what table number they're at. And if students do want to switch, we ask them to come to us, and then we will have them redo that QR code so we have an updated contact tracing list for our students at lunch. We've been working collaboratively, especially during this time where there's more freedom and there's some movement with our Oakland County nurses about the importance of when can a student have their mask off versus when they should, and keeping that distancing away from as much as we can, that 6-foot distancing, especially when they have their masks off. So all four of the middle schools have worked very, very hard to create a very safe eating environment for our kids, because that is the one time during the day that they'll have their mask off for an extended period of time.
Thank you, Tony. I think I'm grateful that Tony and Chris could both join us tonight, because they're certainly the experts of what's currently happening in our buildings. And I think they've been able to give you a little bit of a taste of what the last week has been for our sixth graders. One of the things that I just like to echo, and Chris mentioned it earlier, is as we transition more students back into the classroom, we certainly have a lot of anxiety is high amongst our teaching staff, high parents and high administrators, because we all know that it's our responsibility to keep these students safe, and safety is in the forefront of our minds. And right now, we have about 5% of our student population back at the secondary on a daily basis. That's within our building. So we're taking it slow, and we are learning along the way. I will tell you that the partnership between these building principals is deep, and they share a lot of feedback with each other on what's working and what's not working along the way. And I think that that's really the most valuable part of being in this school district is the tight network of professionals and how we really work together in order to be able to solve some of these problems. So that's where we are right now at the secondary.
Okay. Thank you. The secondary team.